Okay, so the next question is what are the advantages of generics in C#?
Okay, so generics is a big category, so I'm going to narrow this down just a little bit. Generics are any time that we write code where the data type is passed in at runtime.
Yep.
Similar in a lot of ways to reflection in certain cases. When we talk about generics, for most people, the first thing that comes to mind is system.collections.generics.
Okay.
That is where all of our generic collection objects are stored, like list, dictionary, all the interfaces for them, set. There's a whole slew of generic collections.
And these little brackets right here.
That's how anytime you see an angle bracket,
Yep.
You're
Kinda
you're
just
not
like
in
this.
HTML. Anytime you see an angle bracket and
Yeah,
you're not in HTML,
HTML.
you're dealing with generics.
Okay.
So what you're saying is, I'm going to, in your case right here, I'm going to instantiate this list object. But a list can't just be by itself. It has to be a list of something. It has to be a list, in this case, of ints.
Yes.
So when we pass int, which it looks like we're passing a parameter, just like you said with the parentheses, like we would pass some value. We're not passing a value, we're passing a type.
Right.
Which is kind of a different way of thinking about things. So we're saying, hey, list, you're a list of ints. And that changes everything about how list behaves. So, for example, right now, if you go down to the next line on line 14,
Yep.
and you said list dot, and you look at the methods that come up, lowercase l.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. List dot, and you look at what comes up, you're going to see the add.
Yeah.
And when you hover over it, it says right there on the screen, list, add, int item. It's already changed all of its syntax for its methods to be int based. Because we told it only deals with ints.
Yeah.
Dictionary, one of my favorite classes of all time, has an index and a value, or a key and a value.
Right.
So it takes two data types. What is the data type of the key, and what is the data type of the value? And now everything about a dictionary, this dictionary, is based off of an int and a string for the key and the value. If I'd picked two other data types, I could have picked string and date time, or something that I just made up. It would shift itself and function for those data types. The great thing is, it is now a lot more error-proof.
Yeah.
I cannot pass something other than a string for the value for this dictionary. It will not compile. It'll go, oh, no, that's not right, and it's going to halt.
And one thing, a lot of beginners, they see list and dictionary and they think it's always not like an array, but there's a bunch of, it's a list of things, or it's a grouping or a collection, but generics is not just that.
Generics is way bigger than that.
Right.
We could make all kinds of generic things.
It might be a singular thing, but what the idea is, you're passing something in that could be different each time. But
yeah, the key concept of generics is I'm passing a type that causes the object to behave different.
Yes.
And there's actually generic classes, there's generic methods, we have generic interfaces. Pretty much everything in C# can be made generic.
Right.
Which makes it wildly more powerful. Without it, I could write a specialty class for an int list and a string list and any other kind of list I could imagine. But as soon as another type comes around that I haven't encountered before, I'd have to write it all again.
Yeah.
And like you said, there are other things that are generic besides collections. But usually collections are the first thing that programmers come across and the first thing that they think of. But I wouldn't want to limit anybody to just thinking about collections.
Right. So that's a very short, small overview without going into, because you could talk about it.
We could make a
this.
series just on generics.
Right.
That would be pretty easy to do, actually. I'm pretty wild with my generics, because I'll So, well, if I just made that class generic, I could use it here, 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 and here. Mm-hmm. And
so I guess we'll go back to that. So when an interviewer is asking this question, what are they trying to get from you?
What was the actual question? What are the advantages of generics?
Yes.
The advantages are code reuse.
Yes.
I mean, massive code reuse. And also, in my own opinion, it also gives you a degree of
flexibility with
flexibility,
letting the different types coming in, right?
Yeah, flexibility, but I think it also makes your code more error resistant. Mm-hmm. Back in the old days, they used to use, before generics, because they weren't original to C#. They came around later, version 2. Originally, you had to use things like arrays or even array list. Mm-hmm. Array list behaves very much like a list, has a very similar interface. Matter of fact, I think they share some of the same interface. Mm-hmm. But the problem is an array list just is an array of object, so you can throw anything into it. Right in the same array list, you could go int, string, date, time, and it wouldn't care. Mm-hmm. It was up to you when you pulled the objects out to investigate to see what they were. Right. Which, of course, when you can throw an int in the middle of a list that you are thinking in your head has strings and it doesn't fail,
yeah,
it leads you to more errors down the road. So I think it stops you from having errors and increases your code reuse and reliability.
Thank you for watching that video from F12 Programming. Please remember to like and subscribe. That does so much for us in the ratings. You have no idea. Also, don't forget to comment below. I hope you enjoyed, and good luck coding.